I'm going to share two stories that are about my experiences with squirrels. Both of them kind of like weird, like kind of wondering what the squirrels were thinking type situations. The first happened a long time ago when I was maybe a young teenager, like 13 or 14, and I was on my way to my friend Derek's house. And it was one of those situations where like the crow fly distance from our houses was very short, but if you like walked there by sidewalk, it was like really far. Like the block was really long, even though his house's backyard was up against some other houses that were just a couple houses away from mine. So I would typically, when I go to his house, I would just cut through the backyards. So it was kind of a situation where there's like a nice like lawn, a mown, tended backyard, then sort of like a wild area where there's a bunch of trees, mostly scrub oak and stuff, and then you get to my friend Derek's backyard. So I would just cut through there all the time. One day, I was just like cutting through, I went across the lawn of the other people and got to that kind of wild area and sort of like pushed under some trees. There's like a little bit of a clearing, but still more trees. But I pushed under the trees and suddenly I saw like a whole bunch of squirrels in like a perfect circle. Like say there was probably like 6 of them in like a perfect circle. And they were just kind of sitting there with one squirrel in the middle. But as soon as I like stepped into the clearing, they all scram except for the squirrel that was in the middle. And it's just holding very, very still. It's not dead, it's standing up, and I can see that it's like, breathing or its heart beating or whatever I'm seeing in its like fast way, as rodents do. And I like look around for a second, like, what is it doing? Is it looking at something? It kind of looked like it was looking at me, but it just wasn't moving. And it was like definitely in the middle of a whole bunch of other squirrels that were like circling around it. And I don't know, like my mind was going a million miles an hour, like what is wrong? Like what did I just walk upon? Like this is really weird. So I don't know, I kind of like took a step forward eventually, didn't move. It just stayed its ground. So finally I just sort of like, if this was the squirrel, I just sort of like stepped really close to it to try to scare it off. And it did not move other than just like its very, quick breathing and stuff. And at that point, I was super spooked that it wasn't spooked, and I took off. I just like made it to Derek's house, and I have no idea what was going on. And to this day, I like, I don't know what it was. Like, part of me thinks like maybe there was something wrong with that squirrel, and the other squirrels just like have some sort of family bond, and they were trying to help it or something, and they were gathered around it. But I don't know, like the way it looked, like how perfect their circle was around it. I like wonder if it was some weird like squirrel seance or like squirrel secret society. My roommate Trent likes to joke that it was a squirrel secret society, which we would, if it existed, we would call the Illuminati. The other squirrel experience happened just a couple years ago. I was at Coyote Gulch in southern Utah, and we were actually on our way back to camp. Most everybody just wanted to get back to camp, but it was, a couple hours left of daylight, so Trent and I just decided we would just kind of explore. So, as you do when you're in canyon country, you just like sometimes see if you can get like up on top of the rocks. And so we just started kind of finding our way, like stemming up some little chimneys and scrambling up some rocks, and eventually kind of got up onto this little shelf of rocks, and there was sort of a high point in front of us, so we just decided let's go to that, and that can be where we'll turn around. And as we were kind of going up toward that high point, I realized there was like a squirrel just sitting there on the top of these rocks. And like eventually we got close enough that like I pointed it out to Trent. I was like, this squirrel, what's it doing? It's just like sitting there. And we got a little bit closer and it didn't move, even though I'm sure it saw us. Like it even like kind of turned and saw us, but it just didn't seem concerned, didn't seem to move. And if I hadn't have known any differently, I would just say it was like a random occurrence. But I had recently read a book called Beyond Words: What Animals Think and Feel, and it kind of gave me an appreciation for like the depth of what animals might be thinking, and we really have no idea. And if I had to like anthropomorphize this squirrel a little bit, like I honestly think it was just up there enjoying the view. It was like just a few minutes before sunset, so it was really pretty time of day, and it really just appeared to be like enjoying the view. So Trent and I just like, we went around the high point. We just gave it a really wide berth, We went all the way around this like kind of dome-shaped feature, and by the time we got to the other side, we looked back and it was just still there. Again, it saw us, it looked at us, but it just seemed unconcerned. And I don't know, I thought it was kind of actually like a beautiful moment if the squirrel really was just like enjoying the view. I don't know if squirrels do that. Maybe it was some weird like parasite that causes it to like become easy prey for like raptors or something in order to complete the life cycle of the parasite. I don't know. But I like to think that it was really just enjoying the view the way that any of us would. So yeah, that's it. That's my 2 squirrel stories.